I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. I am swinging from a throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.
Woo! All right, put down your pens, put down your pencils, step away from the keyboards and settle in for this week's episode of The Writer's Block. First and foremost, allow me to thank Don and Sally Wright for giving birth to me, because without them, none of this is possible. Also,
Good point.
let me thank Muddied Waters Media for allowing me to do this show. And today, I'm thanking somebody different today. It's weird and new.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank you to Muddy Water Kava for Kava and Tea, Muddy Water Kava and Tea in St. Petersburg for the Kava we are drinking today.
It's delicious.
To all of them above, Bula Vinaka.
Bula Vinaka.
Today my guest on my show. Woo! Today my guest on my show is Joshua Woolbright.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Excellent.
It's been a long day. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Good. Glad.
Happy to be a part.
So you and I actually, like, we live here in the same city. We run in the same circles, and we just met.
Exactly. I don't know how it came to be, really. What? We were at Muddy, I think.
No, we were at Low Tides. Low Tides.
We met once before then.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. We were. It was Muddy Waters, and it was like, I want to say 2 or 3 a.m. in the middle of probably a weeknight. This was back when I worked nights.
Okay.
And I remember we chatted a little bit because there was this crazy ass movie that was on the TVs that they were playing there, and it was about Coley McCulkin, and he was all strung out on drugs, and I had never seen it.
Yes.
And I was like,
Okay,
what
you're
the
right.
hell is
You're
going
right.
on with this movie? And I remember us like exchanging like a little bit, and you were filling me in to kind of, because I think we were sitting next to each other, and then from there, yeah, I think the next time was Low Tide.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I had forgot. Okay, so that I had just driven back. I think that was the time that I had just driven back from Nashville.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't get in until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Makes sense.
I went to Muddy because I knew they were open.
Yep.
And I hadn't had Kava, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Muddy and drink a ton of Kava because I'm wired.
Right.
And so I was
Driving
there, and it was a Party Monster was the name of the movie.
Party Monster. That is right. Yeah.
Party Monster.
He kills his
his
drug
roommate.
dealers. Yeah, his
Yeah,
friend,
his roommate, yeah.
or drug dealer. Or something.
That's right. I had forgotten that was the first place you and I had met.
I would say that was a crazy movie.
That is.
I mean, it really does give a good highlight of what was going on at that time.
That is
at least with society.
That is a crazy
and
movie.
drugs and culture in that sense. But
that movie, is the first time I saw that movie. I was on no, it's not Monster Ball. Party Monster. Mm-hmm. No, Jacob LaBelle. Monster Ball starred Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, the first time I saw that movie, I was on a lot of drugs.
That's fair.
Lots of drugs.
It's always a good time to experience drug movies, just when you're high as shit.
Right. I mean, it's true. The first time I saw Requiem for a Dream, I was just on so many things that I'm not going to actually admit to doing right now.
That's all right.
But yeah, I was on so many drugs the first time I saw Requiem. And like, I love that movie. I immediately saw it and I went, that's fucked up.
That's my favorite movie.
Yeah, I was like, man, that movie's fucked up. This is the most I'm going to curse on the show in a while. But I was like, man, that movie's fucked up.
Until tonight.
And my roommate got home and I was like, dude, you got to watch this movie. And like, we're sitting there doing more drugs and watching this movie. And he's like, do you feel bad about doing drugs watching this movie? And I'm, no,
not really.
No, why would I? In fact, I feel pretty darn good about it.
Hey.
We may lose our arms. No.
Nah.
We're not shooting anything into our arms yet.
The night is early.
Right.
We only just started the podcast, so
right.
We're gonna pump the brakes a little. But no, I gotta think it's not really a drug movie, but the one movie that really stuck out to me, I mean, it was probably stuck out to me because I was high as shit when I first saw it, but it was actually called In Bruges. And it's actually it's a dark comedy. About two hitmen, and one of them
they're in Bruges,
right, exactly, in Belgium, and he goes on his first assignment, and he actually he shoots his target and he eliminates his target, but the bullets go through the target and actually kill a little kid, and he's traumatized by that fact. And throughout the the whole story of the movie, it's real dark comedy, but there's a lot of drug use, and I was hanging out with some yayo. And I was coming down from some yayo, rather, and it it really hit home for me, and I kept that movie right here ever since.
I get that.
Never looked back.
I definitely understand that. Yeah, the coming down from the yayo. That'll sit with you.
It was my first time. And I had done a little over. I think it was 1.2 in a night, and it had only been like 4 hours. And to do and it was high quality. So to go from like over a gram in one sitting in a night, and my nose bleeding and all that, to having never done it and then wake up the next day, I didn't leave that bed for 3 days, man. I was toasted.
I mean, the first time that I did that was my 21st birthday.
Okay.
And
good occasion.
Yeah, I had zero intention of that night turning into that. And
you never do. You never plan for it to happen.
Right.
You just walk into the bathroom, and then all of a sudden you see these guys standing around like the toilet paper dispenser, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Then the rest of the night disappears.
Pretty much, yeah. So my 21st birthday, I turned 21 on a Sunday, like midnight, Sunday starting at midnight. And the bar would not let me in until midnight.
Really?
So they were like, and I get it.
Is it like a theme bar? Or?
No, like it was just I was under 21 until midnight.
Oh, right,
so
right.
They wouldn't let me in.
They really stuck to it.
They did. I was at 11:59. I was like, "Can I go in?" And he looked at his watch and no. And I was like, "Wow."
Bouncers, man, they're dicks.
So I go in and we started drinking, but they tried to get me drunk in an hour and a half.
Was that when the bar closed, like right at 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to get in and
get it done. Yeah, try to get in as quick as possible.
I gotcha.
And so we were getting everything, I was just slamming drinks. So at first I was like, yeah, I'll have a beer. They're like, no, you're 21. You can't have a beer. You've had beer. And it's like that scene in Community where he's like, I'll have a beer. And he's like, no, you've had beer. You don't want a beer.
You don't need it. You need something real.
I'll have a 7 and 7. No, you don't want one of those. No. And I ended up having a Captain and Coke.
Okay, classy drink.
Classy, yeah. Sure. It tastes like chocolate Coke.
Yeah,
and I had like 3 of them, and then they gave me a shot of something, a shot of just like straight rum. I don't know why. And then my buddy grabbed me, and he was like this 6'5", just behemoth of a guy, and he just grabs me, and he's like, it was the last call. He goes, hey, we're going back to my house, and I was like, all right. And then he goes, I got an 8 ball, and I said, I don't know what that means.
Are we playing pool?
Right, and because I knew all these people from a pool, I was like, I don't know what that means. And he goes, oh, you're about to learn. And I went, okay. And so then we went back and we did all of it before 7 a.m. And then I had to go home. I was still living with my parents. And
That's tough.
That was real hard.
Tough.
And I just had to sneak in to my house because I didn't want my parents to see me while I was just yacked out of my mind.
Yeah. It's when you sneak in as quiet as you can, you go into your bedroom and you try and lock the door. If you had locks. My parents wouldn't let us have locks.
No.
You try and lock the door, you try and be as quiet as possible so that nobody knows you're home, and you just pretend you're sleeping, worst case scenario.
Right, exactly.
Nobody sees you come in. But, what were we supposed to talk about? Weren't we supposed to talk about,
weren't we supposed to talk about drugs?
Our journey into libertarianism.
I figured the drugs is a good way to get into it.
Yeah, actually, hey, there you go. That's a fair point. Let the gays protect their marijuana plants with their AR-15s. I'm all for it.
So, how did you be?
How did I?
How did you become a libertarian?
Oh, gosh. I would say, I don't want to say political career because I don't have a career in politics, but I would say my political education, really, when my cerebral cortex had grown to a point where it was actually functioning, which, is usually around 18, 19. Right. And I could actually start garnering information and deciphering what I thought was real and what I thought was crap and where my opinions and my values fell was really at about 18, 19 years old when I was in college. And it wasn't because I attended a lecture. It wasn't because
And where'd you go to school?
I went to St. Leo University. I got my bachelor's there. I got a bachelor's in criminal justice.
Okay.
Then I minored in psychology, and I got a specialization in homeland security and defense. But during my time there, really, I started my education with politics in and of itself was from YouTube, honestly. It was from self-content creators or individual content creators like podcasts like this and YouTubers and commentator channels where I really started to pick up on just the world events. And not only the world events, but one specific event or 10 different events or 1,000 events from, 5 different perspectives each. And from there, I started kind of molding where I fell and how I thought about things and what things struck me as true and what things didn't. Right. And that's where really that started. And I would say the first commentator that really stuck out, and this was before he's famous, because I say it now and everybody's like, oh yeah. But Milo Yiannopoulos, back when he was attending like private lectures and was at like PTA meetings and stuff for these universities. I apologize, that's my phone. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off real quick. Probably should have done that prior to the stream.
It's all good.
But
I was like, which one did I leave the notifications on?
As you can see, I've done this many times. What I'm doing, but when it came to Milo, he was everything that I was not, and in a weird way, I don't want to say that attracted me, but that really made me curious as to his ideas and thoughts, because he was long blonde hair, just like me. Right. And he was this super thin, super tall European, he was from London, and he liked black dick. Like, all he would talk about in his jokes was like how gay he was. Right. And it was all these things that I wasn't Jewish. Like. Right, and he's Jewish, exactly. And it wasn't that I was afraid of these things or that, I was homophobic or an anti-Semite or something crazy, but I was just, they were just new to me. Right. And so to hear and see somebody just so vastly different from myself or what I thought of myself at the time, and to get an understanding of how he viewed things and how he broke things down and how our minds were kind of similar and how we broke things down and how we understood things, really just intrigued me. And from there, oh man, I just went down the rabbit hole from Poll to Reddit to Fox to CNN to Breitbart to InfoWars to all of it. I mean, just to everywhere. To everywhere. To the people that you guys don't know exist and the people that are, the mainstream at the top that are constantly spinning webs. So, right. But that's kind of how I started. How about you?
So I started much later in life. Like, I was always kind of political, but I grew up in a neocon household. Okay. We were blow them all up. Mm-hmm. And blow them all up like God sort them out kind of a thing.
Is that like American X? Like
Right.
Or American History X.
American History X. We were not like that.
No, not that far.
No, not that. We were not that far.
I gotta say, Edward Norton's character in that movie is pretty fucking badass. But anyways,
I mean,
not that I support that.
not that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying.
Let's qualify. Let's qualify. Not that we support that, but
You have to say, you have to give all these pre-qualifications out.
when he's getting arrested,
Right.
after he does
His transformation.
well, like in the scene where he's actually getting arrested after he boot stomps that dude on the curb stomps that guy.
Absolutely.
That it like is the most terrifying vision of a person I have ever seen in any movie.
It is. It's
Because
surreal.
he did not give a shit that he was getting arrested for what he just did.
Smile on his face and everything.
Yeah. Like,
And-
and the eyes. It was something that he did with his eyes where it was like he would do that again.
And the crazy thing is the acting of it was so well that he was able to put that image in your mind, and I guarantee you he's not a person that actually believes or walks that type of life, and yet he was still able to match those googly crazy eyes just that well. But I mean his character and his transformation is honestly kind of beautiful, because I mean there were some things, you know, post his jail sentence and all that where he's changed his mind about these things, and he's become more educated, and he's dug into how it's not really the people and how it's really just these economic systems as well as the government, as well as it's a myriad of things, and that it's not really a skin-based issue. But one of those things from before was actually a conversation he had with his dad when he was a kid, and his dad's, you know, talking about him being a firefighter, because his dad was a firefighter, and he's saying, you know, why is it that my partner, you know, can be somebody less qualified because they got extra points for the applicant pool because of their skin color, because they're hiring specifically minorities and things like that. And that was something that I was actually studying in university at the time that I saw American History X for the first time. And it was law enforcement departments. With a bachelor's in criminal justice, you know, you're kind of stuck in one very small field with very limited job options in terms of that. And when I was looking into law enforcement departments, there were some I won't name in Florida, but that I had friends in that told me, hey, you know, in the applicant pool you get points for certain things. You know, there's 1,000 applicants, they have to separate them somehow. And, you know, that having my degree in the field that it was in was worth the same amount of points if I was a female and a minority. And when I heard that, I was like, "You really?
Yeah.
That you know, that 2 years of dual enrollment, and then, you know, the additional 4 years outside of high school, and, you know, 6 years of total just college education is worth less than, or worth the same if I was, you know, a different gender and a different skin color."
Right.
And it blew my mind. It really did. And it really intrigued me to look further into these things, because at first it would just come across as that's not right. But, you know, you start to break these things down and you realize, you know, these departments have to hire for the public eye. You know, they have quotas, and they have quotas for a reason, because they have to, because their chief and the public will tell them, hey, you know, you need to hire more minorities.
Right.
You just need to. You have to have a diverse.
You need to have more.
If you don't have a diverse, you know, police department, then you can't effectively police. And I can understand some of the thoughts behind that. And I can understand the research behind that as well. But it's just interesting. It just really intrigued me.
Yeah, and that's actually a really interesting way to look at it. Like, without a diverse police department, you can't police effectively.
Correct. You're right.
It's a very valid point. And when I saw the movie, like, that had been a conversation I hadn't had before. Like, where it's like, if you're hiring this person, if you're hiring this person over this person who's more qualified,
right,
you're now leaving somebody who's more qualified out of, you know, out of doing the job that they potentially were meant to do.
Correct.
Because of skin color.
Absolutely.
And I saw that argument just as easily.
Right.
But you're right. You need to be able to police effectively, and if you don't have diversity in the police departments, you're not going to be
missing
able.
something.
Right.
Yeah. And it makes it tough. You know, I was torn at the end of that movie, seeing it for the first time, primarily because there were some things I agreed with Edward Norton on, you know, before he had made his big transformation. And of course it was none of the violent and horrible atrocities that he wanted committed. Not the pure hate. Not the pure hatred and, you know, white is right. But the I mean, like the one I just explained, the one where, you know, it wasn't so much that I agreed with them, it was more that they were intriguing, that I was, kind of biting into it and really thinking, that makes sense. And then seeing the transformation happen and seeing him get out of prison and how he's changed his whole makeup and his whole mind, his whole life, and seeing how much more I agree with that side too, and just kind of coming up with my own opinion. What was it like growing up in that? I mean, it had to have been hard.
No, not really. It's like that.
Did it seem different than other things? I mean, than like your friends growing up, or
No, because I honestly
do you not realize it was
I didn't
just different?
even realize it was different.
That's fair.
Like, it wasn't, like, this is gonna sound so racist. I had black friends.
I had white friends.
I had white
black
friends.
I had
black
purple friends.
Right. But yeah, it's like none of my friends were ever judged by my parents or anything like that. It wasn't that, and it wasn't like in American History X when Ed Norton's reading a book, and I don't remember what book it is.
Me neither. He's laying on the gurney in the medical
No,
center.
he's talking with his dad. It's when he's younger.
Oh.
And he's talking with his dad, and he was
what was that?
because he was like, I think it started actually earlier, and he's reading a book, and he was like, "What are you reading?" And he goes, "Oh, it's this book by this author. They're having us read it it's mandated for Black History Month."
Right.
And the dad says, "Why? That just means that they're pushing. What white author did they push out?"
Right. Exactly. I remember that part.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of that where it was like, they're trying to make everything so PC.
Right.
They're trying to make everything so PC that they're going to eventually kind of like. It was like the seed that eventually became what the alt-right
I got you.
did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I never cared. Like, the Cosbys were on TV. I don't care. Like, I mean, nowadays...
I'm gonna watch my shows, Mom.
Nowadays, like, yeah, Family Matters.
Right.
Steve Urkel's
Leave me
funny
alone.
as crap. I'm 10. But, like...
I don't care. I just want to watch TV.
Right. I just want to sit here and watch TV and not think about anything.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't even know they were black. There was a little bit of that, but nothing where it was like, oh, you can't hang out with them or anything like that.
Oh,
It was just kind of more of a. They're so
It's
worried
more
about,
lightly seasoned than it.
Right, yeah. They were more worried that.
That's terrible.
They were more worried that the push for diversity on TV would disproportionately be made, which you do see now. Like,
Yeah.
I think,
Or you see it put in places where it's clear that it doesn't belong.
right.
And not because it doesn't belong because they're minorities and they don't belong here, but because the dynamic doesn't work. The situation feels forced. The emotions and the emoting and the acting feel dull and lifeless because
not even that, but so you get
it just
movies
feels
about
slopped in there. It feels lazy, It doesn't. I don't care if the whole cast of Star Wars is black and trans, but
Right, yeah, I don't care.
if the movie's good and the plot's good, then I'm all for it. But The Last Jedi was garbage.
No, it wasn't. Okay,
garbage.
I'm not going to get into that
All
discussion with you.
Sorry, it was garbage.
We are not getting into that discussion.
Cross the line.
Yeah, on that one, should have said in the pre-notes, we don't talk about The Last Jedi.
All right, no Star Wars.
Love that movie. But like when people were saying that the members of Asgard were not diverse enough.
All right.
Yeah, it's a Norwegic area. Like
Neither was Wakanda.
True. Nobody complained about that. But like people were complaining about Asgard not being diverse enough, and it's like, well, yeah, it's stuff like that.
Like there's a historical basis, and I mean, it's all mythology, but it was still made a long time ago, and it still has a setting and a culture and a theory behind it, and an overall theme and setting.
Right.
It's
and that was the stuff that. That's the stuff that I think that they were more worried. Like, you're going to be disproportionate. People wanted things to just push out what history and, like, historical mythology and all that.
I mean, we're seeing it today, man. It breaks my heart when I see historical monuments being torn down, no matter whether they're associated with the Civil War on the bad side or the good side. And
you're from Florida?
Not originally.
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Oklahoma, Tulsa. Mm-hmm.
So which side's the bad side for them?
Okay. Which side is the bad side for them? I'm not sure if they were really a thing yet. And I don't think they were part of the original Union. But I mean, what bothers me today is I mean, they were kind of on point in some ways. I'm not gonna say everything was good or called for, but when you look at monuments being taken down words, and when you look at specifically, people don't even remember or haven't even learned or don't understand the history behind this civil union and why the war was fought, why brother fought brother, and why it was split. And people just think it was slavery. And then people just think that was the whole overall arching theme, and that was the point, and that's the history. Right. And that bothers me. It bothers me because that was a very minor part. It was
okay. So it was a part of it, and it I wouldn't say it was a minor part. It
wasn't minor.
But being taught that it was a battle over slavery is wrong.
I'm right there with you. That's the biggest thing for me is people won't even know basic. People, like, you can ask people on the street nowadays. I watch videos sometimes on YouTube, really, like everybody does. And there's like, they'll go ask just simple questions like, who's the vice president of the United States? And people won't even know.
People don't know.
And it blows my mind. Like, it blows my mind. I'm saying like a lot. Blows my mind. Like that the
you'll get used to that. That just happens.
It blows my mind that people don't appreciate what we had. And I think a lot of that comes down to just where our culture's at right now in terms of society and in terms of what media has done and what social media has done to us and made us creatures of beating the shit out of our reward center in our brain and getting that dopamine hit every second we can.
Yeah, it's the instant gratification. The instant gratification generation.
And we're seeing the effects of it, of these kids that are handed an iPhone at 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're 16, 17, 18, they're driving, they're holding jobs, they're going to college now. We're seeing the effect of how screwed up a mind really can be when it's just placed in front of electronics for essentially its whole life.
Yeah,
like
that's on.
Like when I was a kid, we played outside, and that's it.
You look like a Droid user there.
I am.
Yeah, I'm an iPhone guy, but
Star Wars and phones. Huh?
Listen, but they started doing this new thing, screen time. I keep mine off because it's depressing. But it'll tell you how long you've been on your phone. And it'll tell you how long you've been on different apps on your phone.
I don't want to see that.
No. So I had it on for a little bit, and it was like you were on news report, your news apps for X amount of time. That was never number one.
Right.
Social media was number one.
Yep, I believe it.
Games was number 2. Safari, Google, whatever, that was number 3.
Yep.
And then the news apps were number 4. And music, you're never on that.
Right.
It's on, but
you
you're
bring
not,
it up and then you minimize
it.
Even
though music's probably the one I use the most, no, it's not. Social media is still the one I use the most.
I've seen the posts on Instagram. Don't lie.
Right? Yeah, I was gonna say I'm on there.
Do it for the gram.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to.
Do it for the gram. Do it for the book.
There you go. That's it.
I do it for the follow. God, I wish that wasn't true. But because of that, now they've set it where you can actually turn off apps on your phone after you've used them for a certain amount of time.
That's pretty cool.
I know it's a great plan. And parents have been doing that for their kids. And I think that's great.
That's great.
I think that's a great free market.
Well, my parents didn't realize when we were kids because a lot of this technology was first breaking ground. I mean, I remember when smartphones weren't a thing.
Me too.
It didn't exist. You had some of the phones slid and but that was about it, and most of them were flip phones or your car phone, and that was it.
I'm not gonna lie, if I could get a Razor again, I would drop my iPhone so fast and get a Razor.
You could shoot that thing, it wouldn't break.
Yeah, I know.
Just still there.
It was this thin.
It's a tough phone.
It was a tough phone.
I was reading an article this morning actually on my way to work because I didn't actually want to drive this morning. So I was chilling and I was reading this article, and this woman had her phone on maximum brightness because she thought she had vision problems, and so she's been using her phone habitually for the past 2.5 years on maximum brightness, and it wound up that the scans of her eyes from just previous medical testing from 2.5 years before to when she started using it on maximum brightness, she had burned over 500,000 holes into her retinas with her phone and had permanently blinded herself.
Really?
Really.
Yeah, that's why I always keep
mine. I was just
what's
blown
up?
away. I was
Yeah.
blown away.
I usually keep mine at the
nice
lowest. Yeah, at the lowest possible. People are
Yeah,
like,
get it
how do you
low.
even see that? And I'm like, because I'm not old.
Right, exactly. I'm not dying. Yeah.
I'm not dying. Yeah, so when I grew up, cell phones were a thing, but they were not a regular thing.
No.
Pagers were just sort of becoming common.
Yeah.
So like, you know, if I wanted to get in touch with somebody, I had to have what, 15 cents? I don't know what it.
Right, exactly.
What a
You
payphone
send a
cost.
text.
Right, like I
Send
couldn't do
10
that. Like
cents.
I needed to find a payphone and call somebody and hope to God they were home.
See, I'm not glad though. I'm glad those days are gone because that would suck. I mean, it does add a lot of convenience to our lives, but
It does add a lot of
you
convenience.
lose a
but
lot of privacy with that convenience.
Not only do you lose a
Really
lot of
do.
privacy, but you know, back then when you would, God, that made me sound so old.
Way back when,
Way back.
back in my day,
Back in my day.
went backwards up the mountain with no
Back in my
legs,
day.
in the snow, in the lava.
One, you had to you actually had to
schooling back.
plan stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Being late
Right.
was not an option.
Yep. And you had to plan it 2 weeks ahead of time. And on top of that, you know, that was normal.
Right.
Nowadays, you try to hit somebody up and make a plan with them 2 weeks ahead of time. They forget, they drop out, they never show. Or on top of that, they're like, why do you want to plan it so far ahead? Like,
Right.
just text me tomorrow. Just
Right.
text me an hour from now. Like,
Just,
you know what I mean?
Just text me the night before and remind me.
Exactly.
And there have been multiple times, like for this show specifically,
Mhm.
that I'll do that with guests. I'll be like, hey, can I get you on 2 weeks from now? And they'll be like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, great.
Completely forgot.
And the day before, I'll text them, and they read it. Because
Oh,
Facebook tells me.
Yep.
They read it, and they don't
And they're
ever
like, "Oh,
respond.
shit.
I
Oops.
told them I'd do
Supposed to
that.
do that
Crap.
thing."
I'm just never going to respond to that.
Yep.
And then it
ghosting.
leaves me scrambling through the next day.
Well, luckily, I didn't do that.
You did not do that. And
I tried to be a man of my
I
good
I
old word.
had a really good feeling you would not do that.
I tried not to. I was like,
It's-
hey, I'm going to be a little late. Hang in there. But
It's
I'll
one
be
of
there.
no, you were fine. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves is when people show up late. I hate it. Like you have I know you have a phone. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
You can call me. You can text me.
Exactly.
If
Just
you
let me
show
know.
up, if you show up late, it is literally the most disrespectful thing you can
is.
do to me.
It is.
So now I have this new policy that unless you call to tell me,
Right.
like you did, if you show up 1 minute late, I leave.
That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
I don't blame you for that because, you know, we have this. And one thing I've noticed.
Unless, of
you
course,
know,
you're Spike Cohen, if
Right.
you're watching right now, because you're usually on time, but you know
Fair enough.
you get a pass.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
I noticed that, and this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, back when I was still dating, and there was I'm engaged now, but no,
Right.
there
I was
was
like back when you were still dating. Wasn't that 3 weeks ago?
no, I almost said something bad, but I won't. No, I just remember there would be girls that genuinely I started noticing a trend that people just wouldn't even want to talk on the phone. They're like, no, I don't talk on the phone.
Right.
You know, and not just like, you know, that first awkward getting to know someone that first month kind of thing, but like after you've been on dates and this, that, and the other, and no, I really don't like talking on my phone. I don't like talking on my phone. I never do. Just text me.
Yeah.
I always thought that was the strangest thing because, you know, if I can just call you and relay so much more information, especially while I'm doing other things like rushing out of the office and getting in the car to get here, you know what I mean? I'm not thinking about trying to write a whole paragraph explaining what I'm doing and everything like that when I can call you and spend 30 seconds on the phone and just be done with it.
Just
But
done.
the biggest thing for me outside of social media and outside of technology and the use of it, especially for young kids, is just the fact that the internet is a powerful tool.
The internet's insanely powerful.
You know, we're talking a lot about tools these days, and we're talking about guns specifically, which are a tool. Tools in and of themselves are neutral items. I don't care if it's a chainsaw, I don't care if it's a hammer, I don't care if it's an AR-15 with $15,000 worth of attachments.
I don't
These
care if
things
it's a
are,
flamethrower.
that's it. These things are built for a specific purpose, and they're meant to be used a specific way, and 99% of the time you need to have training and qualifications and certifications to be able to use these items accordingly and properly without harming yourself or harming others. But the internet, to me, man, it's a powerful tool. And when I see these parents just willy-nilly giving their kids the internet on a phone at 5, 6 years old, I'm just thinking of how screwed up that kid's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because how long is it, really, until they accidentally find things that are going to scar them at that age,
Right.
or intrigue them. And how far are they going to go down that road before? I mean, my little sister specifically, we had this little hiccup. My parents filled me in about it like last year. And, I mean, she was 8 at the time, and she had an iPad, and they didn't realize that the parent lock or restriction wasn't set up for that one. And eventually, like, they went back through the whole history, and I used to work in IT, and so I tore it all apart and pulled back all the data and went through it for like the past, I don't know, 3 years or so that she'd had it, and to the day where she accidentally discovered porn. And then how it grew from there in the history, how it was 3 weeks later to the day that she searched for those types of things again, because it never left her mind.
Right.
Those things were there for obviously it stuck out in her mind if she's still thinking about it 3 weeks later at that young of an age and trying to figure out what that was. What was that thing? What did I see that I don't understand? And then it was consistent and consistent and consistent and consistent. And then, she started being physical in certain ways that were just kind of like, oh, okay, well, what is this child doing under that blanket at 10 o'clock at night?
Right.
And, it's scary how powerful, and that's just one thing. You know what I mean? That's just one taboo thing.
Yeah, and it's like I remember growing up, and we had, the internet was not as prevalent as it is now, but cable. You had to actually watch TV when it came on.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have the ability.
No TiVo, no recording boxes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we had
Good times.
We had a scrambled, like at the time I had no life, so that was fine with me. I knew what I was watching every single day of the week.
There you go.
But we had a descrambler, a cable scrambler. So we had every channel.
Nice.
And
cheating the system. I like
yeah.
From a young age.
From a young age.
Sounds like a libertarian.
Right. My parents were not happy about that because one of those channels was the Playboy channel.
Ooh.
And I remember when
Girls
I was
Gone Wild. Do you remember Girls Gone Wild?
I do remember Girls Gone Wild.
Oh, dude, that's classic.
Yeah,
never paid for it because that's
God,
lame.
no.
But I'd watch the
like
rerun commercials at 3 in the morning for an hour and a half. Like, fuck yeah, dude.
And I remember my mom.
I was also 10.
Right. Yeah. I remember my mom one time sitting me down and she was like, "Look, I know that we have every channel out there, and there's a lot of stuff. You love watching TV and you love watching movies, because I do. Like, Quentin Tarantino is my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Ever since I was a
Great
kid.
director.
Oh yeah. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved movies and TV.
Films.
And she's like,
films.
I'd never call them that because I'm not a pretentious.
Well, I was about to say. Well, you just add a little douchey onto it, and there you go. You have films.
I go to the cinema. No, I don't. I go to the movies. But she sat me down and she's like, "Look, there's going to be a time when you are going to see something, and it's going to be the first time that you see it, and it's never going to leave your brain
Ever.
And she's right.
For the rest of your life.
It was Selma Hayek and Desperado, so God bless that for never leaving my brain. But because of
it's a good first memory.
That's a great first memory.
I remember my porn career.
But yeah, it was because of that, it's I remember that, and it's I can still use that if you know what I mean.
Right. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That, low key.
Right. The diminishing returns has not ever hit on that one, as it does on many, many other things.
Well, it's the stock market. Sometimes,
it's slow growth on that one, but that one has held steady.
You leave it, you just put your money into it, you leave it, and then you don't check it for a long, long time, and when you do, it makes you really happy.
Right, exactly.
Leave it back there in the back of the head.
What's funny is I really hope that everybody understood what we just said.
Probably
because
not.
we didn't say what we were saying.
No. Nope.
But I remember her telling me that, and at the time I was like, whatever.
Right.
But she was 100% correct. And nowadays, you don't get it. I had to work to find it.
Right, exactly.
You had to work to find...
one blurry titty on the TV in the middle of the night.
Exactly. It's kind of scrambled. Okay, I think I caught a nipple. No. Now...
Beginning of American Pie, I think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right? Spanked by hairy ass.
We have 3 computers and 2 phones sitting here. I think I've got a tablet in here somewhere as well. We could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... 7 different porn channels going at once.
You can have a whole porn channel just for you guys. Let them know what you think in the comments.
Right.
Be a porn cast. Podcast.
Yeah,
Be a
porncast.
porn pod.
Porn pod.
I like that.
I like porn pod. And remember, if we're filming it, it's not illegal.
Right, exactly. No, officer, we had a camera.
We had a camera, and it was consensual.
Right.
It was I paid her to
she's
be
passed
an
out now.
actress.
That's the Rohypnol. But
Right.
it was consensual.
But it was consensual. She did sign that she was going to take the Rohypnol.
The pudding.
Man,
sorry, that's terrible.
They're going to pull this one so goddamn fast. They're talking about drugging people. We're talking about Bill Cosby and drugging people. But
Bill Cosby, what did he do, man?
Come on, Bill.
What
But yeah,
thinking?
I remember that, and it's like nowadays that's actually terrifying as hell.
It is.
Like,
it is.
and I don't know how much you know about my history, but it's like I'm an addict. Like I openly, freely admit it. Like huge drug addict.
Yeah, I remember.
And like I know that the internet, like I know that my addiction to social media is it's an addiction. I've tried to get off of it.
Playing off the same receptors that those drugs do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I understand all that. Like I don't want to bring a kid into this world for multiple reasons. One, I don't like the way that the world is going. Two,
Me neither.
the internet exists. And three, I have that gene that I am going to pass that I potentially am passing to a child, to another person, who is then going to have to deal with all of the drug issues,
all the insecurities, and you can only prevent so much as a parent.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, every parent's goal, I think, every parent is just a kid that had to grow up a little bit and is still figuring this shit out. I realized that when I was like, I think I was 16, and my mom said that to me, and it was the craziest thing, because I've always, you always think of your parent as like this wise old sage, or, they just know it all because they've done it all kind of thing. And it wasn't until I had started getting older that I realized, you really don't know shit sometimes. And that's when I started questioning things. I started thinking, adults are just people that have just had to go through experiences and are trying to do it better than the people that tried to show them how to do it, or they're doing it all on their own with no experience and no lessons to guide them. And when it comes to parenting, I think that's pretty much it. I think most parents, new parents, strive to just do better than what their parents did. Right. And even if you nail that 100%, even if your parents were the shittiest, most god-awful people, and you set this super good standard, you're still, if you know inherently that these things are a part of your genetics, and you know that inherently these, life was hard for you, and you're going to take a lot of that and you're going to put it in someone else. And that to me feels like a lot of, not responsibility. It's not the fear of responsibility, or
which, it is a lot of responsibility.
It is, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's just, you almost want to safeguard them so much that you don't even create them. And it's crazy to think of it that way. But with the world and where it's at, and where it's really not even the world, it's society in and of itself, and a lot of our cultures where they're at, you almost just want to safeguard yourself and these children, these hypothetical children in your mind, by not even having them, and it's a tough pill to swallow. It seems a little backwards, doesn't it?
Like I don't want anybody to have to go through, like alive, not alive, whatever. I don't want anybody to have to go through some of the struggles that I've had to go through.
Absolutely.
And like I know my tales of addiction. I know the issues that I've gone through, and I know the different struggles that I had to deal with. And I know mine aren't as bad as other people's. Right. And I would hate to think that I would bring something into the world that would be that would have a worse life because of the genetics inside me.
Yeah. Nope, right there with you.
Yeah. It terrifies me.
Yeah. And it's scary. It's a scary reality.
My parents were like, you should have kids. You've always wanted kids, which is true. I did, because I'm narcissistic as hell, and I think that the world needs more of people like me.
Yeah, a little close.
But at the same time, I don't want to do that to somebody.
Right. No, I a little bit of, since we're still, getting past the threshold of our relationship here. Right. I figured I'll explain a little more about myself. I mean, my family was his, hers, theirs, ours, the whole kaflooey. I mean, I grew up in Florida primarily, but, my mom married my dad, they had one together, and then, I was born at the end of the divorce. And so there's some changes there. And then, you know, he was in public service his whole life, and he had seen some hard things and been through some hard things, and he turned to drugs, man. He turned to heroin. Eventually, once he got down to the whole rabbit hole and hit the bottom, he was in heroin. And boy, did he love it. And I'll tell you, going from that
I
dynamic,
don't blame him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had a professor, believe it or not. I had a guy with 2 PhDs, and one of them was in psychology and the other one was in social work. And he was the coolest guy. His name was Dr. Danner. And he would come in, and he's missing a finger. He's missing his, what is that, the ring finger? He's missing a ring finger on, I think, his left hand. And he would come into class.
Ring finger.
Right. He would come into class, and every new class, because the seniors, we'd had him for a while, you know, we've been there 4 years, we know this guy, he's a hoot, and that's why we take classes with him. But then the freshmen are coming in, and they'd ask, like, what happened to your finger? And he'd make up a new story every time. And we wouldn't tell him, because it was just hilarious.
Like the Joker in
right,
Dark Knight.
Exactly. He'd say, oh, an alligator bit it off. And then, you know, and the next semester when we get to newbies, he'll say, oh, it got trapped in a car door. Or he'll say a chainsaw or a table saw. And it was just the funniest thing. And I remember we had a class with him, and it was, I'm not going to remember the name of the class. It was Intro to Law, I think. And we were learning about due process. And he told us all at the beginning of the class, he said, some students just have a really hard time with this class, so I give you one out. If you get the due process, the Fourth Amendment clause, tattooed on your ass, and bring me a picture or show it to me in class, I will give you an A, and you don't have to take any exams.
I think you told me this
turn
story.
in any paperwork. Yep. And the whole point of this is this guy had not only worked for multiple federal agencies and had not only been, in public service his whole life, he had done a lot of drugs. And he would tell us every time, he said, drugs are fucking amazing, man. Drugs are awesome.
They are.
He's like, the first time. But once I remember we were walking outside of class past a building that's now torn down. And he told me that black tar heroin was the best thing he'd ever had in his entire life, and nothing would ever beat it, ever. And that he was content with knowing that. He had contented himself with accepting that. And even though that urge would always be there, he never did it again. He said he did it once. And that just blew my mind, that amount of self-will, to try something that makes everything in life feel amazing for just a blip on the radar. And to be able to have that kind of strength to set it down is near impossible. And so, yeah, don't get me wrong. Drugs are good.
I'm just going to say,
drugs aren't good. Drugs are fun. The drugs can be fun. I'll stop rambling.
That gave me some goosebumps.
He was a good man. He really was.
And he's right. They're so much fun.
They are.
They are so much fun.
They are.
And
just as dangerous.
And getting off of them is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. And because of that gene, it has caused problems in my personal life. It's caused problems in my professional life. It's caused problems throughout everything. And I've always had to try to figure out a way
to work around work with it.
Really.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my thing was alcohol. I slipped into a spot for 5 years. Just a little spot of time. And, I really didn't start changing my behavior until my 23rd birthday, a couple years ago. And it wasn't until then that I had really, I woke up the next morning and was, my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, had packed all of my shit into a bag. And, I remember the parts of the night I could remember, and I just remember, I should be incarcerated or I should be dead.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, that I harmed somebody or anything like that or anything violent, but I fucked up, man. And I had been doing it for so long. I just kept convincing myself that, I had nothing better to do. And I knew I was in a rut, and I didn't care. I just didn't. I took care of my responsibilities. But other than that, I didn't care. If I didn't have work that day, I was pissed drunk, man. And it was hard. Yeah. I couldn't have done it without Kava and Kratom. I couldn't have done it without... By the way, go check out Muddy Waters in St. Pete. They're pretty awesome.
And Grassroots, because they're actually our sponsor.
And Grassroots. And I should have known that before I came live. But also, it was Kava and Kratom, but really it was somebody giving me... My whole life, when people had given me opportunities when I knew I didn't deserve them, it just felt like too much guilt.
Right.
And I'd rather burn it all.
I get that. So I quit doing drugs a while ago. I don't even know how long ago at this point. But I quit drinking when I was this old. Mm-hmm. They don't know how old I am.
Fair enough.
When I was that old, and that was 4.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Quitting drinking was the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life.
It's brutal. It really is.
And I did it on a bet. Somebody was like, you can't do it. And I was like, yeah, watch me. Because nobody's going to tell me I can't do something because that's also part of the gene.
Normally, you take a bet and then you drink.
And so I was like, he was like, if you quit for a month, I will never say anything about it again. I was like, I can do a month.
It was brutal, wasn't it?
It was god awful.
Yeah.
Night sweats.
Yes.
Like, got sick.
Yep.
Had the tremors.
Yep.
Like, and after that month, when I got through that month, he said, well, okay, I'll never bring it up again. And I was like, I don't know if I'll ever drink again. I don't want to go through that ever again. Like, I still went through it for another month and a half after that.
Exactly.
It was awful.
The DTs for me, man, they were, and I mean, it was straight to my legs, which bothered the ever-living crap out of me because it was every night that I went to bed, never mind during the day, but every night that I went to bed, I was stuck between being able to fully sleep and being kind of awake.
Yeah.
And I could feel the tingling in my legs and the twitching and how much my legs felt like they were spazzing. And I felt it in my lower back.
Oh, the restless leg syndrome thing?
Dude.
Oh, that's awful.
And
that's bad.
I know it came from the drinking. I know it did. I have no idea how or why. I haven't done any research on it. But the moment I would quit drinking for an extended amount of time, like, which for me was at the time like a week. But if I had gone, more than 3-4 days, it was terrible. I couldn't fucking sleep, man. I was just trapped in this cycle. And then the day to day, I felt so weak and lethargic and hated everything. And I was pissing brown and like just hated, like sweating when you shouldn't be sweating and all sorts of things. It was pretty brutal. It was.
So yeah, that's why I don't want to ever bring that into the world for somebody. Like
I get it.
You're supposed to love your child more than any. This is the weirdest
and if you
fucking
do,
show I've ever done. You're supposed to love.
It's because I'm here.
Yeah, you're supposed to love your child more than anybody else, anything else in this world. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
And because of that logic,
mm-hmm.
why would you bring one into this world knowing that it's
going to bring harm and pain?
Exactly.
And you know what, my mother's, because I've mentioned this before, and she told me, well, it's because you get so much out of it. You get to bring this person into the world, and you get to experience their joy, and you get to experience their happiness, and you get to experience them carve out their own way. But even with that said, the argument still stands, and really that's just kind of a fallacy. But the negative and the harm and the pain and the awfulness is still out there for people with our genes, for the world the way it is, and for a whole myriad of reasons. And It's, if you truly do love someone that much, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I was with a girl for almost 5 years, and
you've had 2 relationships that are longer than all of mine put together.
I've actually had like 3 serious ones, but yeah, I was with a girl for almost 5 years, and I remember her mother told me in Massachusetts, in Worcester, Massachusetts, masturbate, that she told me that
Worcester.
Right, Worcester. Yeah, I know.
Worcester.
She used to get after me all the time because I can't do the accent to save
Worcester.
my life.
It's Worcester, Mass.
Worcester. It's you're whisking something. But she told me that she kept an affair from her husband because it was a one-time thing. Everybody says that, but that's what she said. She said it was a one-night stand. She didn't know the guy. It was out of the state, I think she said, and she knew that it would make her feel better to get the guilt off of her back by telling him.
Right.
But in some kind of twisted logic, which almost makes sense in my mind, not that I'm a cheater, she didn't tell him because she loved him so much that she wanted to protect him even from herself.
Right.
And even protect their relationship from her own skeletons in the closet. And that just kind of blew my mind, and I still don't know where I fall on that one. But it kind of comes into play with this conversation when it comes to...
And I've actually heard that logic before from people that are like...
It's weird.
I was like... No, I never told her because I already hurt her.
Right.
I didn't want to do it again.
Correct.
And it's like, well, that's some backwards ass. Like, to me, that's some backwards ass logic.
It is. But it almost sounds the same when you say, or when I'm saying I don't want to have a kid in the future because I don't want to see them tormented and hurt and frustrated and stuck in the same ways that I was frustrated and stuck.
Right.
But I think what happens is we stick to our narcissistic side a little too much, and we come to that conclusion, but we forget how much joy and how much life we bring to that person and to other people because of that person, whether it's when they're 5 or 25, and the list goes on. So it's kind of the toss of a coin, really. And I don't know, in my opinion, it's hard to really put a nail in that coffin because it just is.
With each passing year, it gets easier for me to put a nail in that coffin. Just based on math.
That's fair. Just based on math. I'll tell you his age after.
But yeah, how did we get there? I don't even remember how we. Man, that was.
Let's rewind. We went to. No, I have no idea.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you. Maybe let's go to something a little bit more
jovial.
Yeah.
So, Uncle Jesse's mullet.
I haven't heard that one yet.
You haven't heard that one?
I saw the one you posted today. It was Nigeria, and it said MAGA country.
Yeah, that was
a geographical map of Nigeria, and you put MAGA country over. Oh man, I was dying at work. That was hilarious.
Jesse Smollett.
This dude, man.
Uncle Jesse's mullet. That's a Full House reference for anybody.
Look, I caught it. Yeah. I don't blame. I mean. My justice boner is so hard right now.
Oh yeah.
For how badly he's gonna get screwed.
He is gonna get so screwed.
But I mean, I can understand trying to drum up, things. A lot of celebrities try to drum up things to increase their career because publicity is publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
And for anybody watching
this,
but if anybody doesn't know,
fill them in.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, the grand jury charged Jussie Smollett today.
Yep.
With
thank God.
Impeding justice and faking a hate crime. I don't know what
it was. Falsifying a police report, and then also the. I don't know if they have any laws on it because this is going to be based off of state law, unless a Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, unless a federal court picks it up.
Right.
But as far as I know, I don't know their state's laws specifically. My study is in Florida, so I know Florida statutes.
Right.
But for Chicago, at least, or for Illinois, I'm not sure exactly if they have any specific laws toward that. But as it stands, it would be obstructing justice because he lied to the police over and over and over and over and over again, as well as to the rest of America. And what was it, the Breakfast Club he went on, that interview?
Whatever, that morning show.
Oh, gosh.
So also, before he faked this hate crime, he faked...
He mailed a letter?
He mailed a letter, and that made it federal.
It did. Brought the FBI in. It wasn't even the FBI, really. It was the FBI sanctioned, the FBI portion of the Federal Mail Service. Believe it or not, the U.S. Postal Mail has some badasses in it, man. And when I studied that crap, I was like, no way. You don't think the little mailman walking down the road has got any friends, you know what I mean? You don't think that's some tough badass. But let me tell you, the U.S. Federal Service, when it comes to mail, has some serious power and has some serious law power. They've got a lot of reach. They can reach to anybody. The moment he sent that in a letter, he messed up. He really did.
Yeah.
He made it federal.
He made it because he sent it through the federal mail, and it was the beginning of his entire hate crime, hoax hate crime, which... He is going to get charged locally, but there is a good chance it's going to get picked up by the federal. It's going to get picked up by the federal,
as the federal courts, and it should be because you fake anthrax in a. I mean, I know it was crushed up ibuprofen, but you fake any type of terroristic like attack, you deserve to be in prison. I don't.
And he also made terroristic threats toward himself, saying
it's pretty funny when you think about it.
It's
so backwards.
They were going to kill his. Whoever wrote the letter, which was him, we're going to kill his black ass or black gay ass. I don't remember exactly what the phrasing was, but because he did that, his career is shot.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Nobody will touch him with a 10-foot pole now because you can't advertise somebody that's been wrapped up in a scandal like this, especially when this guy drummed it up himself. Like,
Right.
that's the hilarious part about it, is he tried to make this thing so big, and it's pretty clear that, he really wanted it to be big. He just didn't think he was going to get caught.
Right.
That's the funny part. I mean,
And
they really didn't do it that sneaky either. I saw the evidence that they have thus far, and the timeline.
They've got a video of the Nigerian brothers.
They
buying
really
the
didn't
masks.
think this out.
He told them what to say. He pointed them to the camera because that's the one that was going to be recording them.
Yep.
Like and we posted a meme yesterday that I thought was the funniest meme I had seen ever, possibly. And it says, "Jussie Smollett is proof that writers should not direct. There were too many plot holes, and you cast two black guys as racist whites. This isn't Hamilton.
This isn't Hamilton."
And I thought that was so funny.
That's funny. That's funny.
But like, career's definitely over. But
sure.
My question is, throughout this entire thing,
I'll take this jacket off.
oh yeah, do. You're still the best dressed host or guest I've ever had.
Just got out of the office. There's really no excuse.
But throughout this entire thing, was he lying there in bed at night after giving an interview with CNN or the Breakfast Club or whatever show he was on, or anywhere else? Did he ever have the thought, man, I may have gone too far with this? Or was he so narcissistic about it that he was like...
I'm going to err on narcissistic.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because I saw snippets of that morning interview that he did with, I think you're right, I think it was the Breakfast Club.
I think it is.
And I saw the full 45-second portion where he breaks down into tears, and he's explaining how, she asked him, I forget exactly the wording, but she asked him, how are you going to move on from this? How are you going to move forward from this? And he goes on this little tirade about how, well, I can't move on right now, but what I can do is, let's at least get justice. And I'm sitting here thinking, I meet 10 out of the 11 markers for a sociopath, and I couldn't have pulled that off as well as this guy just did.
I mean, if anything,
And
it really spoke
blows
to his
my
acting
mind.
ability.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
I mean, his thought process and his plans are really screwy. He really should have tried to do that a different way.
He should have had a better writer.
They've put into like 400 man hours, I think, already.
Yeah.
But public service man hours into this case because they want to nail this guy to the wall for wasting their time. And honestly, I don't blame them, because it's really not the waste of time that stings so much. It's and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that there were a lot of things during the Obama presidency that racial divide in our country, I mean, it broke it wide open. And we've had a lot of scars and a lot of pain thus far, and a lot of issues that have occurred. And for someone to manipulate on that, for someone to capitalize on that, bothers the crap out of me. I mean, that's where I'm really happy that justice is probably going to get served in this situation, is because of the fact that he was willing to manipulate something that is already so sensitive to this country as it is at this point in time, and use that as his stepping stone to try and increase his political, or not political career, his acting career.
His professional career in any way.
It doesn't make any, I mean, that's just dirty. That's just dirty. I don't care who you are. That's nasty.
It is not a...
Not a classy move there.
It's definitely not a classy move. It's not something that anybody who... The thing is, it's narcissistic as hell.
Oh,
because you think you're going to get away with it.
I wouldn't be...
It's a weird division of being narcissistic and also not thinking you're good enough to be able to do it on your own.
Right.
So, and I'm not gonna make any like sad excuse.
Insecurities and narcissism. That's tough. It's a rough life.
That's
I've been there.
Right. I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's a victim because he had these insecurities from growing up black and gay. Because I understand that's gonna be a tough thing to deal with.
It's got to be tough.
But at the same time, you were making it on your own. You didn't have to do this. I know that you weren't happy with what you were getting paid at Fox for Empire. I know that you were probably being written off the show.
Probably.
But you were all, even before this happened.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember reading it.
But you had a career that people now knew you. People knew who you were.
Mm-hmm.
And not only for your acting, which now we all know just on point. If they gave out Oscars for
Dink
fake
and flicka.
hoaxes, not fake hoaxes, for hoax hate crimes,
Hoaxes.
you're winning this year.
I mean, honestly, it did speak to his acting abilities. I mean, for sure.
100%. But
You know.
he absolutely destroyed it based on the insecurities that he had,
Mm-hmm.
which is the only thing I can think of anyway.
Right.
Like, I can't think of any other reason he would have been like, I'm going to get away. Like, the narcissism is, I'm going to get away with this.
Exactly.
But the insecurity is the only thing I can think of on why he'd be like, I'm going to have to do this so that way I get more money, more notoriety, and get more gigs.
That's it.
It's
like what is it, Sean King on Twitter and you know, or even, let me think of a tough one, or even like, you know, after the Parkland shooting or after the Pulse nightclub shooting, and you see people capitalizing on the event because it can either push their political agenda or it can push sales into some item, and even if the NRI did that, it would piss me off. And it's not fair to manipulate, you know, a whole country of people that are dealing with a struggle, and, you know, drum that up by coming up with fake struggles and make it seem like this country really is so horrible when we already have enough countries that hate us and we already have a bad public image. That's just where it really stings as an American,
right?
Because, you know, you piss away our goodwill and what little of it we have.
If you take a look at
for what, for money,
right? If you take a look at the Covington kids,
mm-hmm.
That was completely drummed up.
That too,
and somehow
I don't know how I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh.
Doesn't that feel like ancient history already?
It does.
And you know, we almost lost so many rights, and I mean that was the
with
best
Kavanaugh
example.
There, we kind of did lose a bunch of rights. But
Jesus, man. That was the best example of guilty until proven innocent I have ever seen. We almost lost that as a pillar of our country.
I'm not even willing to say that we haven't lost it, because if you take a look at Justin Fairfax in Virginia,
it's hard to fight that.
It is. If you take a look at Justin Fairfax in Virginia, he is going through the exact same thing that Kavanaugh's going through.
Agreed.
Everything is an accusation, and people are either believing it or they're not. And it's pretty much fallen right down, like it's on the exact opposite side of the Kavanaugh thing.
In the meantime, the family's having to spend thousands of dollars on security. Their information has been doxxed. Their information has been given to creeps out there, and believe me, there's creeps out there. And I mean, it's just they're getting death threats to the schools, death threats to their home. Like, imagine having, you know, your own family. I mean, I can't imagine it, but imagine me having my own family. To me is weird, and not being able to protect that. All of my information just being out there for anybody, any good person, any bad person, all over something that was false in the first place.
Yeah.
I got in a car accident last week. I have a point. I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
And the guy hit me. I was making a turn into a driveway. The guy pulled out of the stop sign and just ran right into me in my back end. And, you know, he was a firefighter. And we get out, we talk, and we shake hands. We wait for the officer to get there. Officer gets there. We both agree on what happened. You know, it's pretty clear cut. Officer writes the narrative in the report, provides the report. We call our insurance companies and go about our ways that day. I've been out of the car since.
Right.
He doesn't call his insurance carrier for like 4 days. So I call, I set up the claim. Okay, that's weird. They get a recorded statement from him, and he says that, you know, he was stopped at the stop sign and I drove into him. But there's no front end damage to my car. So it doesn't make sense. So she pushes him a little further, and he says, I didn't talk to an officer. I never gave my side of the story. I'm getting an amended police report. So this whole time I've been stuck without a vehicle, you know, a rental to replace my vehicle because they can't determine liability. This whole time I've been sitting here thinking...
But you have a police report, though.
Not good enough. This whole time I'm sitting... There were no tickets and no witnesses, so... So I'm sitting here thinking this whole time, like, you know, this guy's in public service, and, you know, it's a field that I got a degree in and something I care deeply about, and it may not be where I am right now. I work in insurance, but, you know... How shitty of a person do you have to be to you know, proclaim that you care and be in a field that you care about people, and then try to screw them over at every last little minute that you can.
Right.
And especially when you can just blatantly lie today and people believe you. People just believe you. I mean, do you know Matt Raspo?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a story for you in a minute, but what were you going to say?
So yeah, I was in an accident I guess this was 2 years ago now. I got T-boned.
Know what that's like?
Woman coming out of her driveway.
Mm-hmm.
It was on 22nd, and I was driving. I was on my way to the airport to pick up a buddy of mine, and I guess she was looking to the right, and she saw an opening on the right, and she didn't look left where I was coming from, and she just ran right into the side.
Right into you.
The insurance company on that, they were. I called, and she didn't report immediately, so I called her insurance company.
Right.
And
that's what I did this week.
Right. And I was talking with them, and they go, okay, well, we're going to have to wait for the police report and all that kind of stuff. I was like, no, that's fine. And they called me back the next day, and they were like, yeah, so we went over it. We had to make sure fault, and I got real nervous because there was a pause. And I was like, there's no way you can say this is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, she goes, yeah, we're just going to handle all of this. And I was like,
mm-hmm. Exactly.
Cool.
As they should.
Right. Because there was no way. Like, she just flat out right into the side of me.
And I mean, I'm a week and a half into mine, and I mean, the damage is to like the driver's side, rear wheel, and trunk and quarter panel portion. So the damage adds up, and there's no other damage to the car. It's a brand new car. And, I've been out of a car this week, and me and my fiance are down to one car. And, the only way to get a rental with my insurance company is to file the claim through them. And I'm just dealing with this issue where, I'm dealing with the insurance, the head of my claim for his insurance company. And she's telling me over the phone on a recorded line, she's like, no, he's lying. She's like, I know, but I can't do anything about it. I have to follow these policies and procedures, and our policies and procedures are to always err on the side of our insured.
Right.
And so we just have to do that until, he can come up with something or come up with nothing. So she finally just gave me a date, and she was like, I'm going to set it to this date, and if he doesn't come up with a police report until then, we're going to err on your side, and we can finally get this stuff started. But it's the same thing with politics. It's the same thing where, you're almost bound by the procedures and the policies, these aides that are actually sending out the tweets for these congressmen or congresswomen, and the people that the grunts, the people that really do the work, are bound with their hands tied and their mouths gagged, and it's really the people that they're working for that are lying. Right. And when you lie like that, you can convince a lot of people with just a lie on Twitter nowadays. And it blows my mind how much that divides our country and how quickly it does.
And, I mean, Jussie, I think
Jussie.
Is that how you say it? I don't even know.
It's J-U, but everything I've heard and everything I've read, it just seems like it's Jussie. I don't know. Maybe it's Jussie.
I don't know.
Jussie Park, Jurassic Park. What?
Yeah.
So.
Jussie
Jurassic
Uncle
Park.
Jesse's mullet. Uncle Jesse's mullet.
That's great, man. You should get a T-shirt with that on it.
But he told one lie. I mean, it was a big lie. But he told one lie to the world, and it spread
like fire. Yeah.
And now he was the one that cut his face.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one, I think the guys punched him, but he was actually the one that caused the bruising on himself.
Oh, yeah. He told him not to hurt me. Right. He said, let me put up a little bit of a fight, and I'm going to rough myself up afterwards.
Right. And, I mean, for method acting, on point. Like, good on you. Like, you,
maybe I'll
you
get
took
like
it to
an
the limit.
extra in a movie 10 years from now.
Right. But he took one lie because he wanted to further his career. Potentially, I also have a theory that he's trying to help out Cory Booker and Kamala Harris with an anti-lynching bill. I think that also has something to do with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does, unfortunately.
I think that he was trying to further his career and help that bill out. And because of this one lie that he was like, okay, I'm going to run with this, he's destroyed his career. He's destroyed his credibility. He's destroyed the credibility of the countless people who have gone on Twitter, who were supporting him, were saying that we need to... we need to find justice for Jussie, that we need to...
yeah, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
We definitely need to find justice for Jussie, whatever. However you say his...
That one guy.
What's her name? Juno.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen Page?
Yep, Ellen Page.
Ellen Page was on.
Oh God! Don't even get me started on that.
She was on one of the late night talk guys.
How can you say that lynching is not right?
Right.
How can you debate that?
And she's like crying.
Yeah, full blown,
just bawling up, and on national television, begging for us to be a better nation. And it's all based on a lie.
Yeah,
everything
and not
about
only
it.
that, but there's actually a little thing in between there, between that lie and between the overreactions from that lie. There's something in there,
right?
And it's supposed to be common sense, critical thinking, and facts,
right? And we didn't use any of them.
Let's eliminate that from our society and throw it out the fucking window, and then we'll see how people come up with things. Oh, they really don't. They just follow whatever they're told, and that bothers me. Even from a young age, I didn't like being told what to do, like most young kids. But as I got older, it really wasn't authority that bothered me. There was a lot of authority in my life that I respected. And, even government institutions that I respected and appreciated. But being told something was absolute without me getting the time, space, or day to determine whether or not I found it an absolute truth,
right,
bothered me. And it still bothers me to this day. You're supposed to have these critical thinking skills that you put into effect when these types of controversial issues come into the light. And when you don't, you normally hop on a bandwagon, and you're normally put in one of two groups. And that sucks, because that doesn't accomplish anything. That just divides.
Right.
And eventually, if you have such a division and so many people on each side, things get ugly.
I'm gonna go light years back on you.
All right, bring it up.
Light years back on you.
I might not know it.
You will. It was, I don't even remember the name of the town. This is gonna be tough. Do you remember Hands Up, Don't Shoot?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, this is where I'm going.
I had to write a 15-page paper on that event.
Yeah, Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Good
time to be in school.
When that story first broke, the story was that this metropolitan, it was outside of St. Louis. I can't remember the name of the city.
It was Ferguson was in Missouri.
Ferguson.
Right? Yeah.
Ferguson.
St. Louis is in Missouri.
Right.
Duh. I don't know geography.
The Ferguson cop pulled this guy over.
Yep. Shot him for no reason.
The guy was walking away with his hands up, and he shot him.
Yeah.
That was the narrative. That was the narrative everybody ran with. The St. Louis Rams.
And they beat it to death.
To death. The St. Louis Rams, huge Rams fan. Before the game, after this happened, two of the players stood outside, but before they ran out of the tunnel, they stood outside and they held their hands up in protest.
Yep.
And the Ferguson police, St. Louis police, got really mad at the Rams about it and asked them to do a formal apology, which the Rams never did. I think they ended up doing it later, but not like publicly.
Right.
After all the facts had come out.
Yeah.
And everybody was just going after this racist cop in Ferguson, Missouri. Same things were happening. He was getting doxxed. Like, people, he had to move. Like, he didn't get charged. People were giving him death threats. And
lost his job.
Lost his job.
Lost his career.
Yeah. And then he ended up, it turned out that everything that was said was wrong.
All of it.
Every single thing that was said was wrong.
Oops.
But
at that point, now it's just damage control. Now it's get it out of the media and the public eye as soon as possible.
Right.
Because once you do that, out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people.
Right.
You know, how long ago was Kavanaugh?
October.
That was not long ago.
No.
It feels like ancient history, to me at least. Not ancient history, but it feels like it was a year ago. It feels like it was a while ago. And it's because, well, we have all this attention over here. Let's make a fire over here and get everybody over here. Because, oh shit, this just turned, and now this doesn't push whatever it is we want to push. So let's get everybody away from it and have them focus on this thing.
Right.
And it's really just mind games.
True.
You know, you're just tricking people to take their attention from one thing to another. And when it found out, here's the thing that bothers me the most. When it's found out that all of that was false, he still lost his job. His family's life is still at risk. There's still a lot of security issues for him and his family. And, you know, he lost his whole career. And he can never be a cop again. I guarantee you there's not going to be a single department that will touch him because it will just cause controversy for that department. And no police chief's going to say, or mayor is going to say, yeah, you know what, we need that right now.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So you lose your career in your whole field. And that to me would hurt more than anything. To have that stripped from you, but not only stripped from you wrongfully. That hurts.
Right.
I don't know. It's crazy to me. Are they telling me to shut up?
No. No, it was somebody asked a very strange question.
Spicy question.
I wish it was, but she's still watching. Never mind.
Talk about that later.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's been a history over the last, I don't know how long, of these hate crimes that have been committed. And the ones that make the news, the ones that are the big ones, have typically turned out to be fake.
Yeah, exactly. That's shit that never happened land.
Exactly.
Is really all it is. And it always starts with some I don't want to say morally, it always starts with some person that is just on the highest pedestal for, the Olympics of SJWs. It always starts out with someone that is just, everything on the checkbox. They're an attack helicopter, they're black, they're female, they're a feminist, they're trans, they're all these things in one. And someone from the group or ideology or thought that they don't like does this thing, and they school them in some way, and everybody claps.
Right.
Like that's really, and I mean that's essentially what this is, just drummed up on a way bigger scale. And, for nefarious reasons.
Right.
To further a career, to make money, and to spur hatred. But the spurring of the hatred is what bothers me as an American, because you're teaching us and trying to influence us and trying to persuade us very well sometimes to hate each other. To hate your neighbor. The people that you have to deal with and see every single day. Right. Instead of preaching compassion and understanding.
When the Ferguson thing was going on, because of the media that one was getting, which was huge. It was everywhere.
It was. They burned their whole city down.
They did.
I mean, they burned black store owners' buildings and stores. I mean, it's bewildering, honestly.
During that time period, another cop-related incident on a black man happened, and that was the "I can't breathe" incident.
Yep.
And that, I think, was an actually justified, needed to be...
What was his name?
I don't remember his name right now, because I did not know...
I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah. I didn't know that we were going to be taking this road, so...
Sorry.
It's fine. I mean,
it's
been a great conversation, but because of everything going into Ferguson, which was completely fabricated, everything about it was based on a lie, this man that died...
Yeah.
Because he was choked out by a cop... did not get the press. And people started, and people on the right, I'm not going to give people on the right a break on this one, even a little bit, because then they started saying, oh, he was breaking the law by selling Lucy's, and he had an arrest record, and whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what he was doing in that moment was
what determines whether or not your life should be at risk, or whether or not the level that officer has to climb to stop the threat is so great that it could cost your life. Mm-hmm. It only breaks down to what occurs in that moment.
Right.
Not because 9 times out of 10, they're chasing a suspect that they barely had 2 sentences with before they took off, before the bullets started going, before all of this shit. They don't know 9 times out of 10 who it is they're even dealing with yet.
Right.
They don't go, hey, you know what? Let's go find this guy with a rap sheet as long as my arm and who's the opposite of our racial skin tone, and let's just go find him and kill him. Like, that's how it works. Yeah. But then again, I've been around police departments my whole life, and I've worked in it for 5 years of my career, and it, I've seen that side, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people have an upbringing and life experiences that reinforces a negative stereotype of law enforcement, much like you. I don't want to say you were brought up in an environment where you had a negative reinforcement for people of other racial skin, for other minorities, but it's the same thing. I mean, it's, they put on that blue and that badge. It's the same understanding. It's the same negative reinforcement as neo-Nazis when they see a black person. And 9 times out of 10, it's just negative reinforcement that was introduced to your life, usually at a young age. And it just grows.
Right. Woo. Man, I ain't gonna I went like 25 minutes over my
I
normal
hope
time.
I don't like make you lose your sponsor.
Oh no, God no.
I've been a little edgy boy tonight.
Man, you apparently don't watch our show very often because this one's mild.
Fair enough.
This one's real
enough.
mild.
As long as I'm not offending any of the special snowflakes.
Yeah, no, I mean we're probably offending lots of people, but that's
the point. It opens your mind.
We have a regular saying. It's almost become it's a saying that's been said almost on every episode of the Tuesday, the flagship program of Muddied Waters Media and Muddied Waters of Freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We have a saying that we have said pretty much every week for the last, I'm gonna say, 3-4 months.
Okay.
3 to 4 months, and
That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, we here at the Muddied Waters Media don't actually condone rape.
Fair enough.
Because that's how often we talk about it and end up making very inappropriate jokes.
You got to make it known right away.
So, once again, we here at Muddied Waters Media don't actually condone...
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't want to speak
Not
for
at
you,
all.
but I would imagine...
Oh, thanks, pal. No,
Right.
no, not at all. But I get it, and here it takes us back to almost the beginning of the conversation where I started understanding politics and where I started developing my own opinions and values. Milo Yiannopoulos, when he first started, was unknown, and boy was he edgy.
Right.
And he said controversial things, and there were a lot of things I didn't agree with. Some of them I may agree with now. But those negative things, they seem negative in the moment. They seem negative when you're young and you're dumb and you don't get it. Or sometimes they're just genuinely negative things and you shouldn't buy into that crap.
Right.
But the thing is that it makes you turn on your brain. And it makes you use your critical thinking skills to decipher and determine and analyze and process. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? And it kind of comes full circle.
And, pretty much everything that we talked about tonight, wow, I'm going to be able to sum this up. That's a fucking miracle. Everything we actually talked about tonight, because this actually works. I don't believe it. Normally it doesn't work like this. Everything that we talked about tonight comes back to we need to have the ability to critically look at any situation, any idea,
and everything.
and be able to make your own
Judgments.
well thought out opinions.
Correct.
You can't just look at something and go, okay, well, that's the way it is.
Correct.
We've got a good friend of the show, Joshua Smith. He's out in California. He's running for the chair of the Libertarian Party out there.
There you go. Wow.
He ran for the national chair last time against Shamari Sarwark. And he ended up losing, which sucks. But good friend of the show. And he was on my show a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about the Covington kids. And because that was when that was happening.
Right.
Because news comes at you fast.
It does.
And
it does.
we here at Muddied Waters Media come at you faster. But
no rape jokes.
But no,
No, just kidding.
Tons of those.
But we don't condone it.
Right, but we definitely don't condone it. But he said whenever something like this happens, he was actually on the show the day that the Smollett thing happened as well.
Really?
So he's been there for the two big ones. The two big recent ones, and both of them he said, I'm not going to make a decision until the dust has settled a little bit and all of the information starts coming in.
That's it.
And that's what people need to start doing. You need to, you can't rush to judgment on these things.
Correct.
Much like you have to take the time to think, like we were saying earlier, you have to take the time to think.
That's the critical part of the critical thinking.
Right.
Is making a
thinking
sound
is the critical part
judgment.
of the critical thinking.
Right, exactly. It's making a sound judgment and determination, and you can't do that entirely until you have all the facts or as many as possible.
Right.
And so it's not about coming up with your own opinion right off the fly and throwing it
That
out
was
there.
a hell of a snap you had.
Sorry. Throwing it out there for the whole world to see and everybody to jump on and discuss. It's also about being able to reserve that opinion and hold on to it. That's the one thing about me. This is actually the first time I've ever really talked about my own political world, my own political life, my own understandings, values. This is actually the first time I've really had a discussion with somebody about it, especially live for other people.
Right.
And genuinely. And
I will say, for your first time doing this, especially going live, you're killing it. Like
I'm sorry for everybody watching that has to see like my face melting in this lighting. I look like a blob, and I have more hair than that. You just can't tell because of the camera. But thank you. I'm trying.
Some of that's
to be
fake
honest.
news.
Fake news.
Some of that's fake news. You can guess which part.
Thanks, buddy. It's all about being honest, and it's all about being open. And to be honest with you, that was something I was scared to do for a long time, especially I was on a very liberal college campus, and it just didn't seem smart.
Right.
And, why would you stick your hand in the the fire ant mound? Like, why would you? So I think sometimes it's great to come up with opinions and values and read and study and research and understand everything and anything to do with any type of situation. Sometimes it's best, though, to keep that to yourself. Wait. Be patient. Use that critical part of the critical thinking and determine sound judgment.
Right. Yeah. Man, I couldn't wrap that up any better than that.
I'm trying.
All right. Well,
this has been fun.
Yeah, it's been a great time. That was Absolutely. Seriously, like, most of mine don't really go more than like 45 minutes to an hour.
It's been an hour and a half already.
Yeah, no, you killed it today.
Hey, hopefully you'll have me back on in the future.
I would love to have you back on. Normally I'm like, hey, if you want to push anything, plug anything, knock yourself out. So it's up to you. You
can follow me on Instagram at I'm Josh, though, but it's THO and there's no apostrophe in I'm. But other than that, I don't even have a Facebook anymore. Yeah, I'm pretty lame nowadays. No, that makes you so much better than so many other people. But I had a wonderful time, and I appreciate everybody watching and listening, and for supporting this. This is the beauty of what we have in our country, and what scares me today is that we have a lot of people trying to take that away. When you can have two people with two different backgrounds and two different lives and two different everything, and have civil discourse and just appreciate being in each other's company and having a discussion. Yeah. That's our country. And, we lose that, we throw that out the window, we might as well throw everything else out. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So thank you. No, absolutely. And I do hope that, I'm glad you had a great time, and I'd love to have you back on sometime. That'd be great. That'd be great. And thank you guys. Everybody else, you can follow us on Facebook at... Well, first, next week, Tuesday, all new episode of Muddied Waters. Hang on, what month is this? Okay, okay. We got new shows coming up in March. So one of 12. Right, we have new shows coming up in March. I had to see what date we were on right now. Tuesday, all new episode of Muddied Waters of Freedom, all new episode of My Fellow Americans on Wednesday with Spike Cohen, and all new episode of the Writer's Block next Thursday with me here. And you can follow us at facebook.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. You can follow us on Instagram at Muddied Waters of Freedom, on Twitter at Muddied_Waters. You can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/Muddied Waters Media, and you can find this and every episode of Muddied Waters Media at muddiedwatersoffreedom.com. Tune in next week. Tune into it all. And it's going to be a blast. You'll enjoy it. What he says. Come hang out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And like, share, do all of that stuff that people do. Thanks. I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, 'cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. Singing, hey, hey, alright,
much, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.